What's up, everybody? Welcome to Nobody Asked Us, presented by Brooks Running with Des, Kara, and Chris. So if you're on YouTube, you see Chris is here because we kind of got in a kerfuffle earlier before we started recording. And I said, you should just come on and chat
It's
with
heated.
us.
It's heated. There are
The
opinions.
topic of Boston came up and Chris lost his schniz, so he's going to join us today.
Oh man!
I think we just realized we're entitled and we don't understand.
Yeah, Des and I don't get it.
Like, I don't know what you're complaining
what
about.
do you mean? Just run the standard. We don't get it. So we need a better perspective, but we're not going to go there yet. We're going to quick catch up. Des, I feel like you just traveled and ran a half. Tell us, how did it go?
I did. I went to DC for the DC half. Run Pacers are out there. Good friends, Julie Cully and Chris Farley, not the actor, but the runner. Put on an awesome event. So I went out there and did some promotional stuff with them, a group run. And then I did a workout in the half. I did 5 by mile and a half. So I think a lot of folks on the course were really annoyed with me. I'd be like, boom, and then I like take a half mile break. And so I was trying to stay out of the way, but I loved it. It was really fun because it's an out and back course. So like the people running up, you could like cheer for them. And yeah, it was cool. It was a great vibe, great energy. They were pumped. They're already asking about next year. Like, how can we get a pod? Like, let's do the whole thing. So,
cool.
When you see the registration open for that, jump on it. Cause I think next year will be just as exciting, if not even more so.
Very cool.
How was your weekend? How was your week?
My weekend was good. It was Adam and I, Colt went to a little camp at YMCA of the Rockies in Estes Park. So Adam and I brought him up there and then stayed up there and celebrated our 23rd wedding anniversary. And everyone wants to know what we did. And we Netflixed and chilled. We watched so much
TMI.
All we did, we went out to dinner and watched Netflix and hung out. And it was so great. We were on the same page. Like everyone's like, oh, there's all these great hikes up there. We didn't do that. Yeah.
No.
So that's what I did over the weekend. It was really great. It was really relaxing. And yeah, 23 years of marriage to Adam. Good job putting up with me.
Wow. That's incredible. Bravo.
It's crazy. I've officially been married to Adam for half my life now. So yeah, it's really wild.
I don't even know how to ask. So many questions there, but also I just feel like can of worms. So I'm just going to be like,
yeah.
Good.
Well, just so you know, because you guys I don't have that many friends. So when we hit 25, we want to use it as an excuse to have a little party. And so you guys will have to come to Boulder for we'll call it a renewal, but basically we're just going to be like, thanks for putting up with me. And then we're going to have a little party. And I mean, I'm assuming we're going to make it. We've made it this far.
Yeah, 23 is, I feel like you're past the 7-year itch pretty well.
We're well in it now. So yeah. So that was my weekend. It was really good, actually. It was really fun and relaxing. So Chris, what'd you do last weekend?
Well, I feel like you guys earned a relaxing weekend. So things have been so crazy for y'all. So I'm glad you had that.
Thank you. Last
weekend, I drove to Dallas for my son to play 2 soccer games. We're well into his soccer travel soccer season. And so we had Dallas last weekend. I've got Oklahoma in a week from tomorrow. So it's full swing on soccer for us right now. All 3 kids play. We divided and conquered. I went to Dallas with my oldest. Amy stayed and watched the 2 play here. So yeah, it's crazy logistic season for us right now with all the sports and all the activities.
Your family is wild. Like I have 1 child and I think it's so hard. You have 3 kids and they're all really active. It makes me feel like, it just makes me feel like I'm a slacker.
Yeah, watch it because I'm going to be like, yeah, nope, I'm like a little bit worse.
Yeah, but you're still living that lifestyle of having to like train hard. I'm sorry. That is a different lifestyle. I'm sorry. I know you're not.
Train a bit.
You do train and you
Or
travel a lot.
or just
I'm
watching.
exhausted. Both of your lives exhaust me. While you were doing 5 by a mile and a half or whatever the hell you were doing, and while you were cheering on soccer games, I watched an entire season of The Perfect Couple on Netflix.
Is that what you guys picked?
That's what we did. And then we watched Into the Fire, which is, you have to watch it. It's super depressing, but also amazing. Anyway, we watched so much TV, but I'm just saying, like, you're both stressed me out.
We binged a couple. We binged
Says
the
after
first
coming
couple
off the hospital trip.
the weekend before. So Nicole Kidman,
Yeah.
that was pretty nuts.
It was good. There was a lot of twists and
Oh, yeah.
turns. You know,
For
like every
sure.
time you thought it was someone, then it led you down different paths. It's totally worth watching if you just want to be entertained.
Wait, what is it?
The Perfect Couple.
Okay.
And then also on Netflix, we watched Into the Fire, which is a true story of a documentary about a mother who gave up her daughter for adoption at 9 months old. And then later in life, she wanted to reconnect with her and she found out she had disappeared, and she helps just find out what happened to her daughter, even though she hadn't
Just
seen her.
watched it last night.
It's so good, right?
I didn't
It's so
I
intense.
didn't pick up the title. I was just reading it's only 2 episodes, that
It's
one.
just 2 episodes. It's very intense, but also just,
Oh
I
my
want to be
God.
that lady's friend. She seems
What
really
a
cool.
story that was. I mean, very sad, but
Very sad, but really good.
amazing that she got involved the way she did, and it had
Yeah.
justice was served and all of that.
Yep. Yeah. Anyway.
Okay. They're on my
Yeah.
list. I wrote them down.
Okay. Perfect.
Okay.
Okay.
Did you get into your Brooks box?
Yes, I did.
How'd that go?
Were you there when it unlocked?
I was. I was there in the morning, and then mine didn't unlock in the morning. I was like, Dustin, WTF? Like, mine set to PM. And he's like, yeah, they are. Because he was opening his, and I was like, what the hell? Like, I had to wait another 12 hours.
Yeah. Ours unlocked. Mine unlocked at 5:30 p.m. here. And I had Mark Wetmore and Heather Burrows coming over for dinner. And I was like, this needs to open up before they get here. But the sound of it unlocking was so satisfying.
Yeah, it kind of was.
Right? It was just like Colt and I were waiting for it to unlock, and then it made little noise. And I was like, oh, that was very satisfying.
I forgot about it. And then I heard it and I was like, oh, present time.
So then you went and you pulled them off because were yours Velcro down on the top of the thing?
They fell off the piece.
Oh, really?
I opened the box.
Oh, right, because you tried to break it. Yeah. Okay, so what was in there? It was a pair of these new shoes, right? The Glycerin Max.
You have worn yours.
Mine haven't worn.
Love it.
Dez's are fresh.
They are.
So you haven't raced or run on them yet. So you probably don't have a lot of thoughts yet. I walked around
in them. They feel delightful.
So when I pulled it out, I was like, this is a lot of shoe.
It is a lot of shoe.
And I was like, I don't know how I'm going to feel, but I got to tell you, I'm loving this shoe. I've worn it 3 days in a row now.
Okay.
And sometimes with a Max shoe, it can feel sloppy. This does not feel sloppy. And it definitely has a wider platform. I'm telling you, this could be a game changer for me. I know this is not the direction you think I was going to go, but with my dystonia, I feel like I feel more secure. But they're not sloppy, and they have good spring off the ground. And it has like this. Then I started researching because I didn't know what I was expecting the shoe to be like.
Uh-huh.
But you probably know all this because you're like in at the Shoe People with Brooks. But it has this nitrogen infused foam, and it has like more in the heel and less in the toe, and it has like this ability. It has this rocker, and so it kind of pushes you off. And so I'm like in love with this shoe so far. But I'm just saying, when I first opened it up, I was like, that's a boot. That's too much. But I'm loving it.
That's where I'm at. But I need to take it for a little spin.
Yeah, you got to take it out.
But they're so white that I'm kind of like.
I know. I'm going to probably end up washing mine. I do love a white shoe, but everything I run on is dusty.
What's the weight? How are they weight-wise?
They are not as heavy as you think they'd be. They look
exactly. I'm just curious relative to what, because they look like they would be heavier because they're a bigger shoe, but
they're pretty good.
I think of nitrogen foam is that it's lighter.
It is, yeah. So I don't know that much about it because I didn't really know what the Glycerin Max was, and then I ran it, and it was not what I was expecting. Like I said, I was expecting like kind of a squishy, soft ride, and that's not what I experienced. So then I was like looking up shoe reviews because I was like, wait, what are these? Anyway, I really am liking it so far, like a lot. Like I've worn them every day since I opened the box. and it's responsive off the ground. It just is. And I'm part of that's probably the rocker, the foam. It looks like it's going to weigh a ton. It is a big shoe. I'm not going to lie and be like, oh, it's just going to slip on like a ballet slipper. It's not. It's a shoe, but it has a lot more performance in it than I thought it was going to have based on when I first saw it. I'm excited about it.
You talked me into it. I'll
Try 'em
wear it
out.
for a second run.
Yeah.
DNA tuned. I feel like that is debuted in this shoe. Like we've had the nitrogen infused ones before, but tuned is like a upgraded version of it. I'm excited to test that out.
Test it out. Everybody try them. I mean, I think you can pre-order. They don't come out till October, I think, but
That makes sense.
I like it.
I want to say that a lot of people, I was sharing the box on social.
Yeah.
And we have some insiders at Brooks because they were like, oh, it's the Glycerin Max. And I was like, thanks for being a fun governor. So thanks for being a fun governor. Really, it took a lot of the surprise out of it. But wow, it's cool that you're connected.
Well, I was wishing there would be some other spectacle associated with the unlocking, the sound.
Oh, yeah.
But I wanted some fireworks or
like a light show,
confetti or laser lights or something to come out of it. I feel like
no
that
laser lights.
Yeah.
satisfied Des.
I do.
It
Yeah,
was
that
good.
would have been if they could figure out how to program a light show into the top portion.
Mhm.
That would have been like another level to it. But
What
the
are you
shoe
going to do with
was
your
cool.
box?
That's a question. It's where it was. It's nice and tidy. I'm not sure. I'm gonna hands off for now. Like I haven't played with that thing yet.
Mhm.
How about you?
Right now it's still in the kitchen. It needs to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
Colt wants the platform,
Yeah, I could see
like
that.
with the light, because he's like, I can display stuff on it. So I'm like, all right, well, then I need to keep the Brooks top, but it has the hooks where it was locked in. So it wouldn't sit, because I was thinking it would look cool on my desk and I could put stuff on it.
Oh yeah,
But it has those hooks, so it wouldn't sit flat on my desk.
Adam has a tool for
Can
that.
you reuse
Yeah, Adam
it?
definitely. Adam
Can
definitely
you
has
reuse
a
it? Could
tool.
you set it up for like Colt's birthday gift? Count it down or something like
Yeah,
that.
that's
I
actually
wonder
a
if
good
you can
idea.
Program that timer.
Yeah.
I'll message Dustin. We'll
Okay.
see.
Yeah, let's find out. That'd be fun. That's actually a great idea. I put his gifts in there, make him wait it out again.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna long game those people that ruined my surprise. I've looked up their families. Looks like their kids are old enough to already know about Santa, so I'm gonna have to wait till grandchildren. I'm gonna get up in there and be like, Santa's not real.
But he is.
Yeah. In a couple years. Just break their little hearts.
You could just use it as a time machine, Des. Just put things in there like a time capsule and then
Yeah.
set it for,
Put some non-super
years
shoes
out,
flats.
and
This is
then
what we
Yeah,
used to
right.
race.
open it back up when it unveils in 5 years or 10 years time. It's just your
The
built-in
T3.
time capsule.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you
Well
got to
done to
try
that
them out.
team.
Everybody try them. I didn't know what to think, but I love the shoe. I'm really excited about the shoe. So, Glycerin Max, try it. We did say we wanted to talk about something last week. I don't want to spend a ton of time on it because I don't feel like we are educated enough to, but I think it would be crazy if we didn't talk about it a little bit. Obviously, in the running community, super sad. Rebecca Cheptegei of Uganda passed away a couple weeks ago. I mean, this story is so heartbreaking. She was walking home from church. She was with her daughters and her, I don't know if it was her boyfriend and her ex-boyfriend, but he doused her in gasoline and lit her on fire and she ended up dying. She had burns, I think, on 70 or 80% of her body. And it sort of reignited this discussion about violence against women, and especially she was living in Kenya. So especially in areas of Kenya. And it's so sad, Des and Chris. Like, it's just reading the stories. It's just so, I mean, it's just sad no matter what. But this is a woman who was making a living for her family, for her children. And she lost her life over this. So it's, I don't know.
It's wild. I mean, I think she just it's crazy how different the worlds are. I mean, she just ran in the Paris Olympics, finished
Yes.
44th. Like she's actively competing. She's making a name for herself. And I thought it was interesting. Some of the reports, a lot of reports were like, Rebecca Cheptegei dies after this accident or whatever. It's like she was murdered.
Yep.
Like
100%.
let's put that how it was. It was strange how it was sort of danced around, but Yeah, I mean, that's just it's a crazy thing happening. And I just to go back on why we didn't talk about it earlier, we weren't super prepared for one, and two, like the tone of the show, our last show, like it just wasn't something we wanted to slot in. And
Right. Oh, by the
like,
way.
yeah, it wasn't, it didn't fit. So that's why we're a little delayed here. But obviously we saw it and we're pretty appalled by it. So
And so this isn't it's not something that we necessarily see in the track and field community a lot, but it is something we've seen in the last few years a little bit, violence against women. And you know, I'm not going to pretend to be perfectly educated on this. When Agnes, I call her Tirop, but you call her, but how do you pronounce her last name?
I think you got it.
Tirop. Okay. She was murdered after, I want to say, the World Championships in Eugene, maybe. Um, by her husband. She was stabbed to death, and that sparked a lot of talk about the culture and the way women are treated and the violence against women. And there are people who are doing good work about that. So right away, someone that comes to mind is Mary Nagugi, who we've seen run Boston many times. I think she's about to race either Chicago or New York. She's an excellent runner. She's from Kenya, and she started Nala Track Club, where she brings in young, I think mostly Kenyan, but African women. She brings them through this training camp. She teaches them how to see their value, how to manage money if they make money, things like that. Like empowers them to have more control over their lives. Because one of the things she was saying was that sometimes these women are in these marriages and then all of the money that they're earning goes to the husband. They don't actually have an ability to even leave because they don't have the financial stability to leave because the husband is getting all of the money. They're managing the career. So she really wanted to change this and really empower the women. Hey, you're the athletes. You're the one that people want to come race and see. And how can I empower you to see the value that you have? So she's doing incredible work there. And then there's another organization as well called Tirup's Angels, and they have their program's a little bit different, but it's also just empowering women, right? I mean, it's very similar.
Yes. I mean, yeah, along the same lines. And I think that um, they're partnered really well with Adidas. So I think that's a great kind of combination there. So you'll see a lot of athletes running Adidas kits and then that logo on the other side, and same kind of program set up for them.
Yeah.
I don't know as much about it, but they're on social and they have
Yes.
websites, and check it out. I mean, great resources. It would be silly for me to sit here and talk about it like I've done the homework, but there are people who have and are making a great impact. And check out Nala Track Club, Tear Up's Angels. I'm sure there's
Yeah.
others.
They're both on Instagram, and I would say check them out, start following them. And if you want to get involved, let's support them because they're on the ground doing the work. They're actually interacting with women and empowering women. And so I think following them, cheering them on, and if you want to do a donation to them, they'd be happy to take it and it would go really far. So yeah, I think we just wanted to kind of say that and just say we were both really upset to see Rebecca's death. So I don't know.
Fair.
I don't really know what else to say. It's just horrible.
Yeah. Well done.
Okay.
Tough topic.
Yeah, it's really awful. Well, should we bring in Chris? He's already mad at us, Des.
He's ready.
On that note,
He's been stewing.
He's been
notebook.
stewing.
for the record, I'm here very reluctantly.
Counterpoint.
Yeah, he doesn't want to be here, just so everyone's clear. So Des and I were loosely following the Boston news this week, but not as closely as Chris. Chris is a coach. He coaches many people who are trying to qualify for Boston. And it's interesting because he has a perspective that we don't have. Just full disclosure. Des and I have never worried about qualifying for Boston. I ran there 3 times. Every time I just told them I wanted to come, and we did a contract and we got it done. Des has run there. How many times have you run there?
12.
12 times. I don't think that you ever were worried about hitting a qualifying mark. You wanted to run there. You did a deal. You went. And so when we see this other stuff, I just feel like it would be disingenuous for me to be like, I totally get it, because I totally don't, right? So I was talking to Chris about it a little bit over text, and he was trying to help me understand a little bit. And then I saw a little bit on social, but the bottom line is I don't understand, and Des, no offense, does either.
Yeah.
And so
I think our closest comparison, we're like, well, it's like the Olympic trials.
right,
Like you just get it done.
right. And Chris is like, no, it's not. And so
It's actually not.
So Chris, I know you don't
Educate
want to be
us.
here, but as I said before this call started, talk to Des and I like we're 5. Why are you upset? I know that you're not necessarily upset with Boston. You like that Boston's hard. You like that it's like a goal that people have to achieve and to look for and to shoot for. You have plenty of athletes who that is one of the big goals and driving forces, and you like that, but you are upset about the change of time where I'm like, well, it's getting harder. So what if they change the minutes? And you're like, oh my God, you're not getting it. So explain to us what
and then answer our 5-year-old questions.
Yeah. And then be patient with us while we go, what? Why though? Who cares? Huh?
I will try. First, context, right? I'm a running coach. I coach hundreds of athletes of all levels, not just those who might aspire to be Boston qualifiers. I believe everyone is worthy of good coaching, regardless of their goal, regardless of what I call their degree of fast. There's no slow in my book. It's all degrees of fast. And if somebody wants to break 5 hours in the marathon, I'm going to be as happy and excited and motivated to coach them as someone who wants to break 3 hours. And I don't put different values on those two athletes. Now, that being said, there are different levels of goals for athletes, and I totally understand and believe in the value of having Boston and something like Boston, which I think many in this space and even this week would equate this as sort of the Olympic trials or the Olympics of the everyday athlete, and having a standard and striving to that and trying to achieve it. There's massive value in what can come from that. I love Boston. I've run it 4 times myself. I love what it represents. I love the history. I love the fact that there are people that have to work to get there, whether that be by running a certain time or whether that be by raising a certain amount of money. Either way, you have to perform to get there, and that's what makes it so powerful. My frustration.
I'm so sorry. I'm like, everything you're saying, I'm like, amen.
Right?
You can coach me next. Yep.
We
Yep. We agree.
Right? And the thing this week that's been frustrating, and just I guess for context, for those that may not pay attention, Boston came out this week and announced that they'd had more applications than ever to get into their field for next year based on those that had qualified and applied to try to be in next April's Boston. And so that implies that fewer people are going to be able to do it who would actually reach the qualifying standards as a percentage of the applications than ever before. And also, they announced simultaneously that they were lowering the standards for the 2026 race, which means that those that start qualifying for Boston basically now through next September have to now run 5 minutes faster to be considered for their age group a Boston qualifier. With the exception of 60 plus, they left those the same if you were a 60 plus year old athlete. So they, excuse me. And so they put out this press release this week saying two things. One, more people than ever will be disappointed by our process this year. And by the way, we're also changing the goalpost for next year for races that start basically now and next week. And so when my frustration comes not from the idea that Boston is hard and that there are standards and that people might be disappointed if they don't achieve those standards. Like that to me is what makes Boston powerful, is the satisfaction of achieving a standard coupled with the fact that you might be disappointed a few times before you get it. That's okay. That's magical. That's what makes people better and sharper. But it's the disappointment created by a process that, in my opinion, is broken already. And then you've this week made an announcement that you're changing that process by moving standards in a way that don't actually impact anything, because the real life standard for Boston already exists beyond the numbers they put on a piece of paper.
So this is what I'm struggling with.
Yeah.
We already know that it's way harder than the time they put out there. So they tighten the clamp a little bit so that they don't have so many people upset that they didn't qualify. And we're still mad. So explain to me why we're still mad.
Because you haven't changed the broken process. Like you could have moved it 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes. It doesn't matter. The only thing you've changed is the number of people that can apply next year. You haven't changed anything about the fact that there are still going to be people chasing an imaginary line that no one knows what it is until a date in September, including Boston themselves. And so they might meet a standard, but that means nothing.
Mm-hmm. But it's always been that way, right?
No, it hasn't. It hasn't been that way. When
How
I first qualified, you got in, you got in.
Okay.
Like, if you hit the standard, you got in.
But not as many people were hitting the standard back then. Because just to be clear, Boston can't make a bigger field. They are at the max.
capacity.
They run through neighborhoods. They have all these other challenges. So they can't.
They tried, by the way. For the record, they have tried.
Yes, and they can't do it. So they can't say, hey, 10,000 more people are qualifying. We're going to extend the field size. They can't do that, right? So before, people hit the qualifier and that was they were in. But now more people are running these qualifiers. But Des, get in there.
How can you put a line that is hard set? I mean, it's just capacity, right? Like, so it's,
back when you ran it, you said you ran the standard and you were in. So then what, was the field just smaller, or did they still fill the field based on time?
So at that point, if you got the standard, you were in. I remember the first time I qualified for Boston was 2006. I ran a race in February, and then I did Boston in April, 2 months later.
Wow.
Because the field size wasn't maxed, and they did have a limit, and they would accept everybody up to that limit. But I think that year they never reached it. And so you could register whenever you qualified. And so that there was no time window to qualify. It was just, you run the standard, you can go the next race that's available to you within, obviously, within reason of, some time frame after that race. So that's the way it used to be. They introduced and this is, by the way, the third iteration of the process. When we're talking about buffers and whatnot, right? It used to be that way, where you got the standard or not, and you could register or not. And then when the field filled, they shut it down, but it never filled until usually sometime closer to the race. And so that was okay. And then it got to a point where it was selling out, and there was concern about capacity. So they introduced a process by which you actually had a graduated system where those that had gotten the standard by, I don't remember the exact gradients, but it was like 20 minutes or more got to register. Then if the field was still open, those that were 15 minutes or more got to register. Then if the field was still open, those that were 10 minutes or more got to register. Then if the field was still open, those that were 5 minutes or more got to register. And then everybody else could register that still had gotten the standard if the field was still open at that point. That process existed for a while, but what happened was there became no need for it, because it ultimately, those initial barriers didn't matter. Like, all those people got in down to that 0 to 5 minute window. So they sort of cut out all of that part of it and just have stuck with hey, everybody applies at once, regardless of your time relative to the standard. And now we're going to rank order those people based on their time relative to the standard, the buffer, as people call it. And we're going to accept up to that until the field is filled. And so last year, I believe it was 5 minutes and 27 seconds. You had to be under in order to make the field. This year, speculation is that it'll be 7 to 8 minutes under that standard in order to make the field. Meanwhile, they just moved the standard up 5 minutes. So theoretically, relative to the new standards, it's a 3 minute buffer or whatever it may be. And so my issue is, again, not that the standards are harder. Make the standard whatever you want. I will coach people to get ready for it. I'm firmly in the camp of, fine, challenge yourself, raise the bar. Let's go for that new bar. You can do it. I will get you ready. But it's this unknown and living in the unknown of not knowing where the line is, because the standard in many ways has become irrelevant. It doesn't even matter what it is
Mm-hmm.
because we're already beyond it. So my preference would have been to say, hey, let's drop the standards by 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Create a point where at which we believe we can guarantee everybody entry if they get to that point, and then open it up from there for those that are slower than that, and delight them by including them in the field versus having all these people that are disappointed and feeling like they're not good enough, even though they hit the standard. And coupled that with the fact that this week, they moved the goalpost on people for qualifying that starts basically now. And so they might have been training, because there's this real thing where people had gotten to a point in my coaching experience that say, look, I just want to get a Boston qualifier. I don't care if I can do it or not. I don't care if I'm good enough relative to the buffer, because I can't control that. But I can control whether I'm hitting the Boston qualifying standard. And so they set that as their target. And now that's moved on them 3 weeks before their race. That'd be like USATF being like, hey, your trial standard moved by 5 minutes 3 weeks before your race, and you've been training for one thing and now you got to shoot for another. And people are like, well, they weren't going to get in anyway. I'm like, yeah, they knew that. They'd accepted that. But they had created a bar for themselves that meant something that has now changed. And you've created disappointment around that for no reason.
But okay, I actually hear that argument. My 5-year-old self just got that. I want to be clear. I got that. Like that actually went. That's not in.
Finally get you.
You finally got me. I feel like, okay, all right. I legitimately hear you. My thought is, I hear that so much. I'm also thinking, when is an appropriate time for Boston to change this time? Because a lot of what I've heard over the last few years is like, it's just getting so hard and it's so ridiculous and they're going to have to change it. So then they did. And then people are upset.
Changed it a year ago.
So you would say, here's the change, but it's not for 2026. It's for 2027.
Not that it would change anything. It wouldn't. It's right. Still like the same number of people are going to, or the exact same people are going to get in.
But you know what? It seems like it seems like there's a lot of different interests that are being put on this standard. And it's like, not everyone's goals are going to be met. And I think you could still go and hit that old standard that existed 3 weeks ago. And if you can't be happy about that because it's not this thing in a book, like, I mean, I get it, but I'm also like, well, just do the thing first. And then you can still be like, this is the old qualifier. I did it. And now let me try and move with the goalpost. Like,
yeah, well, and that's the message, right? It's like, but the message kind of, in some ways, becomes screw Boston, screw their standard. You pick your own.
100%. Right? I mean, right? I don't think that people should be completely locked in on that. Like,
that becomes the message. The risk of that message is that eventually it doesn't mean anything to anybody.
I think that would take a long time.
Maybe, but that is my worry. And I feel like without changing the rigor, without changing the quote unquote standards, you can create a process by which people aren't disappointed 9 months after their race because they ran 5 minutes and 25 seconds under the standard versus 5 minutes and 27 seconds under the standard. And you created this thing that had magic and power and jubilation associated with it of, hey, I did this and I did it by a sufficient amount, I think, to get in. And then suddenly 9 months later, you're like, nope, sorry, you're not good enough.
But that's, how do you change that?
That's what, like, I mean, so what's your solve?
I gave you my solve.
His solve is make it really, really hard. And then I might wonder how many people that you coach right now, let's say you have people right now that are like, I'm going to be I'm going to hit the time, but I'm going to be probably between 5 and 7 minutes of actually getting in. When the time is now 15 minutes faster, are those same people going to be like, yeah, that's still a goal I want to achieve? Are they going to be like, that's out of reach. I can't do that.
I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
you're already going to have that at some level, right? Because people are going to now say, well, if it's 8 minutes this year, it's 10 minutes next year, that's too much for me. Those thought processes are already happening. Because by the way, again, the real life standard, everybody understands. It's not like anybody's arguing what the real life standard is. It's the process around it. And how do you account for allowing people to get in or not with it? And so, yeah, if they're going to be disappointed by having to be, run a 320 instead of a 330 for a 34-year-old female, then fine. That was going to turn them off anyway.
Yeah, but maybe if they only change by 5 minutes, they can still say they hit the BQ, right?
Okay.
I just feel like we're
my argument. It's like, well, then
no,
you
I feel like we're really mad, and I'm not really sure that we're really mad about the fact that it's getting. I'm not sure if we're really mad about the way Boston's doing it, if we're just really mad that times are getting a lot quicker,
Right.
due to
I'm just
technology,
mad.
and a lot of people who met a qualification that 5 years ago would have made it now are not even close because of shoe tech. That's like just where my mind is going. Like, what are we really mad about here?
I am mad about the process.
I know you're trying so hard to say
100%. I am mad about the process. It doesn't matter how hard you make it. Make it as hard as you want. People will raise their standards to it. But make it a 15-minute. Like, there has to be a point in my mind. I'll give multiple options here.
Okay.
One, the process I said, which is move it to 10 minutes or 15 minutes faster, and then make it guaranteed. And if you run that time you're in, and you can know it and you can celebrate it, and then you add people in from there, so you can delight them versus disappoint them. One option. Another option I'd be happy with, and people will debate this, is you move the standard by 5 minutes as they did, and then you let every single person who qualifies into a lottery, and then you draw from there.
I don't like that.
I would be happier with that. Well, why don't you like that? You say, well, then because it's not about the rigor of it or the fact that, we should reward faster or not. But then I'm going to say, well, what about the fact that our standards are already unfair in a sense? Because I got 10 more minutes moving to 45 to 49-year age group. I don't think that someone who moves to 45 to 49 should get 10 more minutes. I should have gotten 5. And so it's not as hard for me when the standard moves by 5 as it is for somebody who's 30. Or it's not as hard for somebody who's 60, whose standard has now not changed.
Yeah, but you're 60 out training for a marathon. Come on.
It's 60. Great. It's great. And I have no issue with the standards the way they are. But when you start making those arguments, like it's not already a perfect system in terms of ranking the best people and throwing them in. It's already a broken system if you look at it purely from that standpoint. And we're already open to the fact that we should have different standards for different ages, for different genders, for different, identifications of gender. We're already okay with all of that. So then why not just make a standard and then just have us all draw, and 2/3 of the people get in and a third are disappointed, try again next year. But at least it's fair. It's a level playing field. We all got the standard, and give us equal chance to get in and actually do the race.
Because what if someone got the standard 15 minutes faster than someone else, and the other person gets?
But that 15-minute person might be, like, for me, honestly, just objectively, it's never been hard to qualify for Boston.
But maybe it's their first year of running. Oh, for you personally.
For me,
Got it.
It's never been hard, right? It's not hard now. It hasn't been hard. My pursuit of that goal has been relatively easy in my running journey. Other goals, harder. And that doesn't make me better than someone.
No, I get what you're saying.
There are people that beat the standard by a minute that have to work way harder, that didn't have the natural talent, that have to do more miles, that have to have done it more consistently, that missed 5 times and then finally got it. I coach those people. And to me, they're more inspiring, and their stories need to be amplified as much in all of this as the person who can stroll up to a marathon and run 15 minutes faster without rigorously training. And so it's like, it's not okay to me to just look at it from that standpoint. Because when you're talking about the best of the best, like you guys trying to qualify for an Olympic team, that's different. It's like, yeah, the best of the best, the cream of the crop, we're all going to celebrate who rises to the top. But Boston is about that rigor, but it's so much more nuanced because we're not racing each other. Like somebody who lines up with 50,000 people, we're running time trials effectively. We're not racing people. Like if I knew the 7,000 people that were going to apply in my age group and I was racing head to head with them in a single race on a single day or across a few races where I could see how the times were calibrated, then that would be different. Like then it'd be like, all right, well,
That's
we're
what
all
they
kind
should
of
do.
head to head, but that's not how it actually manifests. You have no idea.
They should pick a race in the majors.
I would love that.
Berlin is your qualifier. You have to sign up. Tokyo is your qualifier. You have to sign up. I mean,
Travel to Berlin.
yeah, figure that out. Chicago, pick one for each category and then make them race for it. I feel like the time trial, we're sick of it for the masses too.
But I do think there is something to that. I would love for people,
You could have
the
sister
everyday
races
runner, to be able to experience the
cities.
concept of racing a marathon.
Yeah.
Like, because I think that's totally different than what I'm coaching people to do. It's totally different, especially in a big race that has, like Chicago, has how many waves? I don't even know. You're A, B, C, D, E. You're in a corral with people that may or may not be the same pace as you. You're trying to line up, figure out where you fit. You can't use the person next to you to know how to execute your plan because they're going to go out like a bat out of hell or start by slowing down and walking or whatever. And you got to run your own race in order to optimize your result on that day. And yes, when it comes down to the finishing shoot and you've got 26 miles of duking it out with people, there's people around you that have kind of calibrated to that point, and you can give every second that you have left down those final miles or final half mile or whatever. You're racing those next to you, but we're not racing in a field of 50,000 with every other, with all these waves. And, it's just it's just like you and Kara in the 5K in Boston. Like you didn't have the same experience not being at the front, right? It was a different game being back in the main field.
I feel like yes and no here though, because even in racing, and I'm just devil's advocate now. I agree with some of these solves. I can see the bigger picture. I get that you guys are not like lining up like this is my competitor. I know exactly who I need to beat to get in or not. I'm grasping that, but I do feel like even in the pro races, there's different things happening. You do have to make decisions. Like I think about Boston 11, where it looks like I missed the start, and you're making those decisions even though you're in the race because this is going to maximize my day. So it's really not that different, except that, like all my competitors I'm aware of. But if you had a real-time list of like, this is where I rank, this is who's in my race, we're starting in like, if they were able to categorize them in waves and like give these people an opportunity to race for their position, like in a descending order list type way. And we already talked about how this wouldn't work. I'm just saying hypothetically, it would be really fun to look at those leaderboards and be like, oh, okay, like I know this guy's matching up here. I'm going to get to race him. Maybe I can beat a few of these people and bump myself up the list to guarantee my spot. It would be cool to have the descending order list for these qualifiers so they know where are they on the bubble? Are they not even in
But Des, when
range?
Chris said he would like everyone's name to go in a pot and then draw,
yeah,
I had a reaction. You had a reaction. What does that do inside you when you hear that?
Well, this like takes it becomes chance, right? Like,
yes,
if they did the list and they ranked you all and the person at the top got like 100 tickets and then you got one less ticket, like your odds changed, then you feel like you have a little bit of control, right?
Yeah. And I
but
think
I feel
that's
like
I
ability
understand
should give you a little bit of control.
Yes. I know that we're coming from a different place, right? We're
sure.
coming from, we understand the assignment. We're going to get it done. We are competitive as hell. We're actually crazy. We want this so bad. And we obviously have talent and all that stuff. So I understand that we're coming from a different mindset. But I understand what you're saying here, Chris, but when you say put them all in a hat and draw, I felt like I was going to throw up. I felt like that is not fair. You don't know that I didn't work just as hard as the person who ran only 30 seconds under the standard. Like I put in my time too. And I made sure that and again, I know so many people are going to hate me after this episode. I'm actually a little bit nervous, but just from the background that I come from, it's like the time is the time. there's no politics involved. And I know there are, because you're telling me like the buffer and the age groups, and there are, and so I know it's not that simple, but I'm just sort of like, the clock is the clock, and I've met the assignment, and now you're going to tell me my name's going to go on a hat? Hell no.
But you haven't met the assignment. No one knows what the assignment is. That's the problem. It's like the assignment changes every year.
Right,
I'm
but
good
well,
with a
it's
10 to
never going to
15
not
minute
change.
lift.
ahead,
Like,
Jess,
I
sorry.
would be totally fine with that. Tighten up the standards, make them super ridiculous goal.
But people also have to know that it's gonna keep changing.
Absolutely.
It's
Which
not
is
like it was 15 years ago where it was small increments of change. It's bonkers, and we've ruined our sport, and this is one of the things that's being ruined because of it. And that these times are going to constantly keep shifting, and what we think is hard is going to constantly keep shifting. And so we can set this time that seems really, really hard in 2024.
When?
2,000 years, 200,000 years from now. But it's gonna, in 5 years, it might actually not be that hard.
You have to accept that it could move
That
again.
we might have to move it again.
fine. I mean, again, the movement isn't the problem. The level you move it to isn't the problem. It's the angst we create around a process that could actually be improved to avoid some of this angst. Like, that's where I'm coming from.
Mhm.
And by the way, I like your idea, Des. Like, I think that'd be great. If you want to be considered for Boston, once you qualify, you have to go throw your name in the hat, and then your buffer gets published publicly, and everybody
That's
knows.
never gonna happen.
But why couldn't it?
That you're gonna go race each other?
No, you're not going to race each other, but at least you know where you stand.
Where
Oh,
are
yeah,
you on
yeah.
the list?
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
okay, there's
Okay.
20,000 people that are at 8 minutes already.
Listen,
So I
somebody
gotta
has
go
the spreadsheet out somewhere. Someone is already keeping track of this
No.
stuff.
It should be on the site. Like, it should be public, like part of the,
sure.
whatever. Or
I mean, you have to already with Boston, the process the way it works now is
business opportunity. Someone needs to build that.
the process the way it works now, or at least part of the process is you don't have to, but you can, and a lot of people do. You go in and pre-register to like validate your qualifier so that when it's time to actually apply, you just click a few extra buttons and enter your credit card. And so they're already essentially collecting this information at some point. And if that's the thing, it's like, well, you have to do this within a certain window so that everybody can see where they stand. And if they want to go race again in order to improve their buffer, then great. But that's the thing. You guys are comparing it to the descending order list and NCAA. And I'm like, it's totally different because, in NCAA, you've got what? 30, 50 athletes that might have a chance. You know roughly what they're running. You're lining up against some of them head to head already. You're able to kind of look at it and be like, if I run this, I'm probably good.
Actually, that's not true, though. When I was in the NCAA, I'm just going to say, you didn't know. And you didn't know how many people they were going to take, right? So I will say it was a little bit like previous Boston, perhaps. No, not even, because they would fill the field. But then it was sort of like my sophomore year, I wanted to qualify for indoor NCAAs. And the system isn't like this anymore. But it wasn't clear cut.
They changed it because it was broken.
But it wasn't necessarily broken. I'm just saying, like, we all survived it. It was like, if you run this time, you're definitely in. But we know that not everyone's going to run that time. And then we're going to fill the field. And then we don't know it. The field will be somewhere between 18 and 24 people. And I was sitting at 22, like, please, please, please. But there's like a chance I'm not getting in. But then the defending champion was right behind me. My coach was like, you're definitely getting in. They're not going to knock her out. And I did get in. But I'm just saying, like, we didn't really know, right? And you're not racing each other. Like, you're running against the clock. My time that I got to qualify, I ran against the clock. And again, I know so many people are going to hate me right now and say I'm not getting it. And I'm just saying I am getting it, but I'm also saying there is another mindset. And maybe there's somewhere where we can meet it all in the middle. Or maybe I just need to be canceled. I don't know.
Well, it's also, again, different because you have more information in those contexts. It's like, where you are relative to the defending champ. You have things you can look at and how certain races go where you can be like, all right, I feel pretty good or I don't. And by the way, they did change that process, so it wasn't like it was a perfect one. And in this case, there's just not that information out there. So you don't know what you're chasing, and therefore you get something and then it's taken away from you.
But
Why?
okay, just real quick, you said, You said it took 5 minutes last year. Looks like it's going to be 7 minutes this year. Where are we getting this information? There has to be some information if people think it's going to be 7 minutes this year.
It's only because we know now how many applicants have applied, which they just announced this week.
Okay.
So people are extrapolating based on prior years. Last year was this many applicants. This year we have more. This number of people are going to be disappointed. So it's just an extrapolation. And then, you can go down like a Reddit or Let's Run, I'm sure.
I got an idea, you guys.
All right.
We get TCS involved.
Yes.
TCS, we have another app.
We have another app
opportunity for you. 99 cents a person. You put your time in, you get the list. It's a database. It's run by TCS. Just think about it, guys.
I think it's a perfect idea.
Consider that. This is where we are going to plug our ad for TCS. Not really an ad, but they are sponsoring our show.
Yes.
They have incredible apps for all the World Marathon majors. So they have the data. They have the results for the World Marathon majors, at least.
Yep. And they'd be able to break it down by age group and gender and all that good stuff, right?
Yeah. I mean, they do a number of races beyond the World Marathon majors too. So I think that there's already like some...
The data's there.
Information there that they could be TCS.
But I don't think
doing more.
They could be doing more. They're already doing a lot. And I think one thing they'd like us to talk about is not what we want them to do, but what they're actually doing, right?
Probably wise to talk about.
So one of the things I do want to go back to Boston. I feel like Chris, I can still see the smoke, and I want him to be able to just tell me off when we come back from this. Like, this is what I find annoying about your arguments, and I'm going to take it because I don't know that point of view. I'm hearing it more and more, and I want to understand. But before we go there, and before I let you just tear me to shreds, let's really quick talk about TCS, because on the pod 2 weeks ago, Des pitched this, like, I don't remember what you called it. It was like
yeah. Spectator like guide. Help me get around the course. I want to keep up with my athlete.
And TCS was like, so we kind of already have that.
We do that. Yeah.
They do that. They have the spectator guide in New York City. So if you have a loved one running in New York City, or you're running New York Marathon, right? They already have, it's called the spectator guide, and it tells you where to go on the course, where you could cheer, where you can see your loved ones. And it integrates with Google Maps. And so then you can actually be told where to go and where to cheer. And I will definitely be using it with Chris while we try to hunt Des down as she runs around New York City.
I'm going to be on the course too, Kara.
Oh, shit.
I don't know if you know, but Chris is a coach, so...
No, he's running!
I'm running that race.
How did I not know that until right now?
I'm totally getting shredded after this segment. I forgot that you're racing.
You're going to be moved on. You'll be like back at the bar having drinks, and I'll be rolling.
No, I would not do you dirty like that.
Well,
okay, so I'll need it for Chris.
Their metrics show that most people don't know about the feature. Mm-hmm. So you go in there, spectator guide integrated with Google Maps. The whole thing is on the spectator guide portion of the app, so check it out. And then I will say one more thing. We were talking about the app idea, and CB was like, what they should do. So this is another pitch. TCS is they should have pro athletes come on and be the voice for like the guide. Yeah. So like,
that's such a good idea.
On whatever street, like it's Clayton Young or Connor Mance or Dakota. I don't know.
Or Des or
whatever. Kara. Just another idea, a little nugget. If you want to use that spectator app and then have an athlete voice it, you could probably find some athletes that would be willing to do it and maybe get more people to download the app.
Yeah.
So the spectator feature is supposed to help you navigate and figure out if you can get to certain spots in time to see a runner. I wonder if you can put in multiple runners and figure out how to map between Dez's 5:30 and my 8:30.
Oh, it's going to work because I'm going to see you both.
She's going to be at the Blue Line Lounge.
I'm going to just hop out at the finish line and be like, what do you mean? I saw you guys all over the place. You didn't hear me?
See me?
I'm going to buy other people's photos.
Lead vehicle gig.
I need the lead vehicle. But then I can't cheer. And then I definitely can't see everything. I just see the lead, which is exciting, but also not. Okay. So TCS, thanks for supporting us. Spectator Guide New York City. People use it. I'm going to use it for Des and Chris. Chris, just go to town on me. Just go to town. All the things that the people listening to this are going to want to say to me and Des a little bit. She's been a little bit calmer, but our elitism, all of our crap. What are the things that people, they're going to be like, I love you guys, but what should we know?
I loved you guys. I loved you guys.
I'm announcing my departure. I loved you guys until I heard this episode. You guys were elitist assholes. But
Well, I mean, look, I've ranted a lot about this week to many others, so I'm starting to lose my steam. But
no, you're not. You're doing great, by the
I
way.
think the challenges in this conversation, one is equating it to faster means more deserving. And obviously that's what Boston's about. We're trying to hit these standards, but comparing a 55-year-old female against a 25-year-old male is already a challenge, right? But we've created standards to try to do that, to say, look, for a 55-year-old female, you need to do this. For a 25-year-old male, you need to do this. We're going to equate those and then put a line in the sand that allows you to get in at the same level in merit, right? So we're creating fairness there. But you guys keep coming back to, well, faster. There's nothing wrong with rewarding faster. It's like, well, in that sense, we're not rewarding faster. We're rewarding faster relative to where you are in life or where you are, from a gender standpoint. And we've accepted that part. And now we've layered on this process that creates another arbitrary line that no one knows, that, by the way, has different impact depending on whether you're 25 or 55. Because to run a 252 for a 25-year-old male, I think that's different than having to run a 402 versus a 405 or whatever the relative standards we're talking about. And so now we're saying, well, no, you're better if you're 15 minutes under, regardless of your age group and gender. And so you're more deserving to get in and do this race than the person that's 5 in a different age group. I don't know if that's true or not. And so all I want is to have standards that we can count on, that guarantee your entry, and a process that allows the field to be filled after that. Hell, make the standard 10 or 15 minutes, guarantee entry, then open everything else up to a random lottery of whoever wants to come in. Maybe that's the solution. Or you got to raise money to fill that gap. Like, now you got to hit a fundraising standard if you want to come in and fill the gap between those that qualify and those that don't. So I think that's what we're missing, is that this, or where my argument is, like, you guys are equating faster is better. And I don't think that's
we
what
don't
it's
think we're saying better. We're just saying, I hear what you're saying. But I don't want you to say that I'm saying faster is better. I'm not saying faster is better. I'm saying that this race is bringing in qualifying times. And in that situation, faster is faster. But look, no, I want Des to talk, and then I have a thought that I want to share with you.
Equating it to like an elite process with the descending order list, I think, is just,
It's not the same.
absent having a data source like Des is talking about. I think it's not the same, because you don't have the same reference points.
Yeah, there's also, there's like the course component too, right? Like there's weather. There's so many variables where people are doing it in different places at different times. It's not really, it's like comparing cross country.
Mm-hmm.
It's different. I get that.
Revel race versus Chicago,
Right.
Downhill 3,000 feet
George,
versus
right.
a flat race in Chicago on a windy day or hot day or cold day. How can you compare? You can't. So there's already discrepancies in the ability to calibrate and compare people, which is fine. We can accept that part. But to then layer in this imaginary line that no one knows until a day in September, and then create disappointment for people around that makes them feel lesser than, even though they've done something that they set as a goal for their lifetime, perhaps, like, that's the part I want to eliminate. And I think there are process changes that can help us eliminate that part. And for me, I hold Boston to a high standard relative to this. right? They've been a leader on gender inclusion, on disability inclusion. They've been a leader in historically just having a marathon for as long as they've had it and having the experience and start to finish vibe that it has. Like all of that, Boston is the pinnacle. So all I'm asking is someone to put their head together and eliminate this little bit of angst that's created around a process that could actually be improved, then just do the lazy thing and like make a change that doesn't actually impact anything.
So what I'm hearing is they need a regional system. Boston needs to come up with 4 Boston qualifying regional races
Oh my
that
God,
they
that's
own.
so complicated.
They
You're asking
own,
people to
and that
travel to all these
you
races.
have to pay a gajillion dollars to enter, and you qualify in one of the 4 regions, and then that guarantees entry.
The other part where this comes from here is that I am, as a coach, 100% believe in the magic and power of having a standard and making it hard. Like that is so magical. And what it does to people that can achieve it from an everyday, for all walks of life is so powerful. That's why I do what I do. And so I just want to keep the purity of that. And I feel like we're losing it a little bit with Boston. And I do think there will be people that are like, screw Boston. Like this is a broken process. And I do think there's a tipping point where more and more people are like, screw it, I'm out. And I just don't want it to get to that point. And I think we can make, again, little changes to like just make the process better.
I want to chime in on that just real quickly, where the purity was gone with super shoes.
It's
So
all Super Shoes' fault, which
screw super shoes.
which is an honest part of the reason why the standards have progressed the way they have.
100%. So, I mean, I think everyone was super geeked on their PRs, and everyone got faster, and everyone was like, this is, of course I'm going to get in now. And of course, but so did everybody else, because we all got access to the shoes eventually. And then the times just got faster. So I don't know. I hate to always bring it back to that, but I do feel like that's a big component. So
Dude, this is why
I would
love
say
you.
screw
So glad
super
you said that.
shoes. And then, also if you want to say they'll probably take it out on Boston as well. But yeah, I would point
So
them
so the next marathon they should do, they should eliminate super shoe qualifying, right?
Yes.
That's the new idea. No
100%.
super shoes for qualifying. So in Chicago, they have to check everybody's shoes to make sure.
Well, if only the rules had been followed in the first place, we wouldn't be in this
Imagine
situation.
that.
Yeah, no, the shark. We jumped the shark on that long ago.
Okay, can I make a confession?
Sure.
That when
You
we
love
started
super
talking
shoes.
before we recorded, it wasn't landing with me really what you were saying. I was just like, I don't get it. But you made a point early in on this conversation and it landed with me so hard, but I just kept going because I wanted you to explain. When you said, if USATF were to change the qualifying time 3 weeks out, think of what would happen. And I didn't exactly know what you're thinking, but my mind went, okay, what if to qualify for the Olympic trials, I had to run 225? And just what you said, 3 weeks out, they changed it to 220. And this is my last chance. And now I can't. And it finally landed with me. And so I just want to say that I get it. I didn't get it before we started recording this. I was kind of like, Chris is off his rocker. He's like hot and bothered about nothing. I do absolutely get what you're saying. And I played a little naive because that comment landed. And I think that's the thing is like, I come at it from such a different perspective, but you spoke my language and I got it. And I'm sorry that I made you go for another 30 minutes. Because when you said that, I was like, oh, no. That actually speaks to me. I do get that. But I'm glad you went through everything. And also, I'm glad that you said you still love Boston because I do love Boston so much. I do love that we have this thing that's hard. I do think it brings out really goodness in people and it brings like greatness in people and things they didn't think they were capable of. And so I think I love this race. And so I love that you ended with saying that because instead of just pooping on it, you're like, this is the goodness that it is. You just want it. You would like to tidy it up.
Tidy up the process.
Yeah.
And Boston has all the resources to do that, right? So let's just do that and keep it the magical thing that it already is. And look, I understand it's not going to be everybody's goal because again, I actually want to end on this, which is that Boston's a worthy goal. I want it to stay what it is and to have the purity that it is, but also those that don't have that as a goal, that's magical too. And you're worthy of those goals. You're worthy of people caring about those goals. You're worthy of the training required to get them. And those can be just as magical as somebody who might want a Boston qualifier. So for those that are rolling their eyes about why we're talking about Boston so much, I want to say, I see you too.
Mm-hmm.
And as a coach, I care as much about those athletes who might have a different goal. I don't actually care what your goal is. For me, it's like, if you have a goal, I'm all in. Let's go get it, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
Cover a certain distance, run a certain time, whatever it is. And so everybody who has a goal should be hopefully empowered and enabled by this conversation, not just those that want Boston.
Yeah, I think that's important, right? Like, not so there are some people who could work for 5 years and will never get the Boston qualifier, never even get close. That doesn't mean it's not worth, their journey isn't worth taking, even though it's just different, right? Boston is not the know all end all be all. It's just a race. I mean, I love it, but it's just a race. And it's like, there's so many other things that are, I think that's one thing that, like you were saying earlier, my athletes they're just devastated. They feel like they're not worthy or they're less than. And then I wanted to chime in and say, then we're doing this wrong. But I get what you're saying. I do. And so then I didn't want to say that because I didn't want to like erase all the good things you had said, which were totally landing with me. But I do think that's an important reminder, like doing the work for your own self and for your own fulfillment and your own strength and journey is worth it, no matter if your goal is 8 hours or 255 or anything in between, or 2 hours or whatever it is, right? And I think we can get hung up on this stuff and say, well, if I can't do that, it's not worth doing. And then we lose our entire community, because the people who are actually qualifying for Boston are such a small percentage of who our community is.
It's control the controllables, right? Like that's what we kind of say. So like whatever your goal is, figure it out, and it shouldn't hinge on a thing that's not controllable.
Yeah.
And, self-value shouldn't go up or down based on a shifting target of a BQ. All right.
Yeah.
Anything else? Anybody else? Final words there?
Anything else to say, Chris? Do you still hate me specifically?
No, I don't hate anybody. I'm just passionate about this. And
I
so
know.
I appreciated, Des says this all the time. It's like, can we just have a conversation? When people like rant on social about things and get really angry, like, it's not about that. I appreciate the back and forth. I appreciate the different perspectives. It's helping hone my perspective. So, no, I don't hate you at all. I appreciate it. And I liked Dez's idea. Just kidding. Not yours, Kara, but I was trying to.
I didn't have an idea.
Right.
I was just
exactly. Trying to draw a contrast. No, it's like, but these are debates that we should be having. And in my perspective too, that's something I mean, Boston should get people together that see these things and talk about it and refine the process. Like, why can't we learn and make it better? And it may not be the thing that I want, but I feel like it's right now this opaque black box. And it would be nice to have a little bit more openness about how we landed where we landed. And
yeah.
But
that's fair.
But no, I don't hate anybody, and I appreciate the conversation. Reluctantly as I was to come on and have it, because
I know he was like, no, no. We're like, yeah, no, you're coming on, because you have a perspective we don't have, and we'll never have it.
I hope it was helpful. I hope I was additive for people. I hope it resonated, but we'll see.
I think it probably saved us, because we would have just been like, I don't know why people are complaining. Yeah. Next topic.
Yeah. We wouldn't have even probably really discussed it, because we would have just said that we don't get it. And that's important to have your voice. Because like I said, I come from a different place, and I'll always come from that place. It doesn't matter how much I love everybody in this community. Like, my experience was different. So was Dez's, right? So it's important to hear your perspective, because it's easy. And just like, I think it's important for you to hear our perspective. On other things. But I think it's really helpful, because that's what makes us all understand each other. And like I said, it landed for me when you said that USATF thing. It landed like that. But then I was like, well, the conversation will be over. And so I have to still go, but a little bit, and get him to keep going a little bit more.
Glad I landed at least one punch.
You smacked me.
Where do we go from here, Kara? You're leading this show.
We're going to Super 5. Super Copy, Super 5. Let's talk about some highlights.
An extra.
That one is so good, by the way.
It's ridiculous.
So I have the espresso and cream. What is the one that you have called? It's like
The
a yummy
extra coffee
latte.
plus energy with vanilla iced latte,
Yeah.
5-star flavor, 200 milligrams of caffeine.
You
It's
guys are killing it as drink spokespeople, by the way.
It's so easy
Like
because
it's pretty
beverages are like
amazing. The
among my
Olipop and
favorite
Super
things.
Coffee.
I do love all the beverages. I used to just be a water gal. I'm very diverse now.
It's pretty awesome.
It's got protein in it. I mean, it's it's basically healthy.
It's basically healthy. Okay. Super
Super
5.
5.
Who wants to go first? Chris, you have to contribute at least one.
I'm ready.
Okay.
Okay.
You want me to
Do you
go
wanna start?
first?
Yeah, you go first. Go for it.
Okay. Well, I'm excited about this week as a coach because it's the last big week in training for Chicago athletes, and we're taking athletes to Columbus, Ohio this year for their marathon, which is the week after Chicago. They have their biggest week this week, last big long run on Saturday tomorrow as we record this, where they're doing pace work and a big progression at the end of the run that's going to put the icing on the cake for all the work they've done in training. And it's just fun and satisfying to see them fit and ready and sharp and ready to go crush it. And of course, to help them navigate all the doubts and anxiety that starts to come with that. But it's just been a great season. Tough one because it's hot and humid here, obviously, but they're ready. And so shout out to all of my athletes that are getting ready in their final week for one of those big races.
I'm
It's a
going to
good
do
one.
kind of a cheesy one here. I'm going to give a Super 5 to Chris. How lucky would you be? I'm dead serious. How lucky would you be to have Chris as a coach?
Right.
I'm serious. I mean, you are like, people know you as our behind the scenes podcast editor, but you are so much more than that. And I think like just the passion you showed today, and obviously I've known you for a long time, but like people would be really lucky to be coached by you. And I know that they can be, they can go and find you. But shout out to you. Good coach. You fight for your people. You believe in your people.
Thank
To
you.
Chris.
Yeah, I like that. I think one thing that was really great that you said, among the many great things, was just how all the stories matter, and you see
Yeah.
all of those with your athletes, and it's a really valid point that there's not one that's more deserving than the other. And
Yes.
so time is great, and we love that, but also the stories are super important, and I think you can see that you get that out of your athletes. Um, like that, love it. All right, am I up?
You're
You're
up.
Okay, this is not going to be cheesy. This is going to be a little plug. We got these awesome dog treats from a listener a while back, and it's been crazy. We were, I think, in Paris, came back, all these things going on, but we did get them. I was going to bring them in here for the show so I could hold them up, but the dog was following me because he wanted the treats. Anyways, it's called Simply American Dog Treat Truck.com is the website. SimplyAmericanDogTreatTruck.com. You can use code FreshyFresh for 15% off. Our listener was very kind to give us these treats for the dogs that they love and a code for you if you want to check it out. I love the treats, but honestly, the super coffee top 5 thing for me was this magnet that came inside the package that is
Yes.
political in nature. But really, it's just a plug for dogs. Like, this is how I
Go
feel
vote for your dog.
about election season. I'm sick of getting mail for candidates. I'm sick of the ads, but I support this. So
Yes.
check out their website, check out their treats, and
Check it
thanks for
out.
sending those
They're
to the
good
dogs.
treats, like really, really high quality. I will say my dogs don't normally get treats because they both have had weight issues. And they're very, they've fought really hard to have their bodies. But I just was telling you that I gave them yesterday. They're really, really high quality. Like it's real food. You can see it on there. It's on the label, and the dogs love them.
And it's a small business. I mean,
Yes.
it's not, a big business.
My favorite
Just
thing was actually the bandana, and I took a picture of my dogs in the bandana, so maybe I'll post that when this episode comes out. But yeah, thanks for sending those. They're
Yeah.
awesome small business, like Chris said, and legitimately good quality product.
So a little plug, but also a worthy top 5, I think.
Yeah.
I've got another one,
Okay.
Fire away.
if I'm allowed.
You are.
So I want to shout out the listeners on the merch response
Oh, yeah.
because, I mean, it's been kind of nuts. How many people have gone on to buy all the things, not just the
Not just
hoodie
the
or
prop.
the mug, but the tanks, the t-shirts, everything's been getting picked up and it's been going crazy, which was a little bit terrifying for me as somebody that was setting up the back end. I was hoping
Again,
that
Chris does everything. He did
something
all of
didn't
that for us.
break, that something didn't break and that I would get blamed for people not getting their nobody asked me merch, but it seems like it's all working out there. We're getting good reviews on delivery times and turnarounds and on the gear. So if you haven't gotten your merch, go check it out. I'll put it in the show notes again, but pretty awesome response.
Awesome response. And I will say a lot of people were like, I don't know what show notes are. And I was like, then you are missing out. Chris writes
Yeah,
the
like,
best
what?
show notes. But for the people who cannot figure out show notes, I did add it to my Instagram profile. This Colt told me to do it. So if you need to find the link and you don't know how to find show notes, it is now in my Instagram profile or bio or whatever. But you are missing out because the show notes are so
some
good.
gems in there for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. All right. Do you have one, Des?
I can, but they're pretty bad.
Do one, and then we'll just do 6 because I have one.
Okay. All right.
Do you want me to go or do you want to go?
I'll go because I feel like yours is going to be better. But I'm in a burpee challenge with a kid I
Oh,
met in
gosh.
DC. He was like, I do 3 sets of 5 Navy SEAL burpees every day. I'm trying to do it for a year. And I was like, I will start with 1 and add 1 every day until I get to 3 sets of 5. And I will do it for a year. And we're going to come back to DC next year. We're going to knock them out. Boom. So I'm up to 7. I haven't done mine yet today, but I set an alarm. I'm in a challenge, a burpee challenge. And if
love
you guys
that.
want to join, you're welcome to.
What
You
is the
can jump in.
difference between a Navy SEAL burpee and a burpee?
So when you go to do the push-up, you do like the mountain hiker type thing where you like bring your knee up to your chest and
Oh,
then do
okay.
the push-up.
Mm-hmm.
And then you do both sides.
Okay.
And that's 1.
Okay.
So
That's
I'm
hard.
up to 7.
Wow, I'm so proud of you.
Look at that. I'm doing strength training.
I'm like
And a little bit of
legitimately proud of
mobility.
you.
So
good job.
that's my top 5.
That's good.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I'm going to make it a super 6 because we thank everybody for the merch, but I also want to thank everybody for the response about my child. And this will come out the day before that big final race that we had talked about, which he's going to do. And I'm just really proud of him. After 6 days of running total over a week and a half, he ran a race this week. And we've all set goals and had things that we wanted and things went wrong and we didn't achieve them. And or things aren't going right. And then we're like questioning, well, should I even try? And so he went out there after 6 days of running, not consecutive, but just 6 days of practice. And he ran, and I'm just like so proud of him. And he did awesome, and he got the most he could out of himself. And now because he did that, he gets to run the big final meet. And I thank everybody for your support and for not asking me what his time was or what place he got. I really appreciate that. I noticed that. And sometimes it's not a lot of times, I think, as we've discussed today, it's not about that. It's about getting out there. And so anyway, I'm really proud of him, and I thank y'all. And yeah.
Good one.
Yeah, there we go.
Love it.
Great show.
All right. Well, there we go. Thanks, Chris, for dealing with us. Thanks, Des, as always. And thank you all. Catch you next time.